Energy takes on many forms, but specifically for right now, it's natural gas. It's speed to power. That's what data center operator hyperscalers are demanding. And we're one of the best in the business at doing this. And so essentially for us to go out there and go to your household name hyperscalers and say, listen, we can deliver, in a phased approach up to 1 gigawatt.
All right, welcome back inside our proactive newsroom. And joining me now is Will Gray. He is the CEO of New Era Energy and Digital. And Will, it's great to see you again. How are you?
Hey, we're doing well, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Good to have you along. I know you're a little bleary-eyed because you've been in Hawaii the last little while at a huge conference. In fact, that's it's been going on for a number of years, but it really has taken a turn into right into your wheelhouse, so to speak.
Absolutely. It was amazing to attend there. We were able to be a significant sponsor of the event. It's called PTC 26. It's been going on, like I said, for a number of years. And really, it was the who's who of the data center world coming. I mean, if it has to do with anything with building, energy, transmittal, all of this, it was so, I think there were 6,000 registered attendees and I
Mm.
believe another 10,000 unregistered. So imagine 16,000 people ascending on Waikiki. So basically, it was phenomenal just walking down the street wearing our name tag, and people like, oh, you guys are the new kids on the block. So it was really fun to be able to share our story and how do we differentiate from like why did we get in the data center business? What are you guys doing? So it was really fun to explain that.
Yeah, and you obviously had some news to share with everyone as well that you formed this strategic partnership with Primary Digital Infrastructure. That was something I'm sure you were asked about and talked about at the conference.
Yeah, it was, and obviously we released that information late last Friday afternoon after market hours, which is not the best time to release such significant news, but we did need to speak about it freely at the conference. Thus why we did that, and of course that was very well received because again, when you look at our thesis of what is New Era Energy and Digital, listen, we are energy. And energy takes on many forms, but specifically for right now, it's natural gas. It's speed to power. That's what data center operator hyperscalers are demanding. And we're one of the best in the business at doing this. And so essentially for us to go out there and go to your household name hyperscalers and say, listen, we can deliver, in a phased approach up to 1 gigawatt. There's been some skepticism, rightfully so. I mean, not many people have actually built a 1 gigawatt, data center. And so obviously for us, it was the credibility to say, listen, let's stay in our lane. What do we do well? And what we do well is provide power. And so we wanted a partnership that what they do well, which is to develop and basically execute on building the data center. I mean, listen, we can sit out here and announce an end tenant tomorrow. Just pick your top five. But and
Yeah.
that's great. Don't get me wrong, Steve. That would be, and that is forthcoming. But then also, most importantly, though, that doesn't bring you cash flow. That's just an announcement. We have to announce the end lease, which is a triple net lease, which we're still targeting for the end of Q1. And then upon the execution of a triple net lease with our partners, Primary Digital Infrastructure, that's when we go to FID, final investment decision, because I think people are not understanding what the capital costs are to build out these data centers. It's averaging, 10 million to 14 million per megawatt. So billions and billions of dollars. And so I do understand that our shareholder base in the market, they want news now. But when you're talking about building just the data center itself, a powered shell, that's just those numbers I just referenced are just for the data center itself. That does not include the GPUs that the hyperscalers will drop into our data center, which is substantially larger. So you're looking, at 20-30 billion dollars all in. This does not happen overnight. And I
Mhm.
do appreciate the patience that our shareholder base has allowed us. And we do want to share news as it's forthcoming. But again, I think, we had to knock, there's a series of dominoes that have to occur before that we can announce the antenna, before we can announce FID, announce the execution of a definitive lease agreement. And that first domino to fall was the announcement of a partnership with Primary Digital. And for those that are not familiar with primary digital infrastructure, they're kind of the original, let's just say the god, I call them the OG of data centers. These guys have decades and decades of experience. We're talking building out, digital realty, Cyrus One, the Infomart in Dallas. These gentlemen know what they're doing. Most recently, they're also part of the co-development of Stargate and Abilene. So if
Mm.
anyone can understand what is happening in this environment right now, it would be primary digital infrastructure because they've seen what's going on right down the road from us, just 2 hours away, and building out a gigawatt scale facility. So I think having that credibility with the hyperscaler, Steve, has been phenomenal.
Yeah, and they obviously, as you mentioned, they've done it a lot, so they're able to the mistakes were made early, and now they're able to fine tune it in order to get you to the place you'd hopefully like to get to a lot quicker.
Well, and absolutely, it's like so, and the reason why they wanted to, it's like, so why would they want to partner with New Era Energy and Digital? I think that'd be a question I would ask if I'm a shareholder. It's
Yeah.
because no one has the background that we have on behind the meter power generation, speed to power. The grid capacity is not there. Also, another issue right now I mean, there were congressional hearings earlier this week on the social impact of the build out of data centers. And what
Mhm.
we're doing is we're not, behind the meter, we're not accessing the grid. So we have a power plant that's co-located next to our powered facility. So this is not grid connected. We're not driving up residential/commercial electric prices. We are not taking, advantage. We're not going to take advantage of our local community. So I think, that's how we differentiate. And obviously that's why Primary Digital saw us as a key component kind of in what I call the new era of AI, pick and shovel AI development of data centers.
Yeah. Well, when I bring you on, I always like to ask you questions because I know you're very forthcoming with people, and you always like to keep people informed of what the company's doing. And you did file some paperwork recently that some people were taking a look at and trying to make up their mind about why you did certain things. So, can you talk a little bit about this at all?
Yeah, 100%. I think, when you start looking at the series of dominoes that have to fall, obviously the announcement of primary digital infrastructure, again, as a key component to delivering a data center, an end product, right, that will deliver cash flow to our shareholder base. That was a domino.
Yeah.
That was a major domino, even more so than actually naming of the hyperscaler, in my opinion. Again,
Yeah.
you can name the hyperscaler, but you have to deliver. So having that partner, boom, that one's knocked out. Number two is, of course, access to capital. That's everyone's question. How are you going to, if this is going to cost billions and billions and billions of dollars, how do we do this where we minimize dilution as much as possible? And again, when you start looking at how a lot of these projects are financed, Steve, it's
Yeah.
really at the asset level. If someone said, how are you going to raise, if you're, in a partnership, 5 to 7 billion, you don't do that through equity at the parent level, which is New Era Energy and Digital. We do project level financing, project level equity. So we do it, so it's a GPLP model. So we're a little bit different than some of our peer groups, how they've done it previously. So we're a little bit different in how we develop. But also one thing that we had to do was, file an S3. And in that S3 filing, that was essentially just being able to access capital markets when we need to. And again, shelf registration statements are very common for companies of our size and our peer groups. And again, they're
Mhm.
typically good for 3 years. So it's not a mad rush to go out there and tap the entire amount. It's just a tool in our kit of available, different financing mechanisms that we intend to use. I think that's one nice thing of having look at some of our peer base. What's worked well for them? So, for instance, there's companies like ticker symbol IRN Wolf, where they've used strategic convertible notes to minimize
Mhm.
dilutions at low interest rates, things of that nature. So again, there's a myriad of different financial products that are
Yeah.
available to our management and our board. And we're gonna pick what we feel is the most appropriate. But again, if we do issue shares, it needs to be accretive, or else why issue? I'm a shareholder myself, Steve. I don't want to dilute myself down. I want to be aligned with our shareholders. So that is the premise of what we're doing.
Okay. All right. Good. You're well informed for sure. Well, thanks so much. Good to see you again. Congratulations on all of this, and now get some well-deserved rest.
Well, thanks a
At
lot.
least
We have a lot to
at
do,
least for
so
the
I
next
appreciate it.
hour.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks a lot, Steve. Y'all take care.
Okay. You too.
Bye
All right.
bye.
There's Will Gray, the CEO of New Era Energy and Digital.